in some books of the Old Testament, I think the book of Job definitely mentions Arabs. And the book of Job we've identified as like a 4th century BC book. So there are Arabs in the 4th century, and I think there are some Egyptian inscriptions that mention Arabs around the 8th century BC as really, a separate identity called Arab. But nothing before that that we can put our finger on that I'm aware of. You might find something. I'm not talking about the Quran or the Hadith or something. I'm talking about other sources. Certainly Roman texts are very interested in Arabs. So by the time of the 1st century BC and the 1st century AD and onwards, Arabs are important to Romans. Alexander, if you saw the movie recently, or if you know anything about Alexander, saw some of the documentaries, Alexander was going to lead an expedition before he was killed into the Arabian Peninsula because of the riches that were supposed to be there. What kind of riches was he looking for? Not oil riches. What was he looking for? Huh? Incense. Frankincense. Myrrh. Why did they like frankincense and myrrh? Why is the New Testament interested in, as Jesus is born, the camel caravans, or wherever they are, coming from Arabia with frankincense and myrrh, and they stop and adore the Christ child? Not that I believe any of that stuff, but that's the picture anyway that a believer is given, and if you do believe it, you're free to do so. That's the picture you get. But why in the Greco-Roman world, particularly the Roman world, were they interested in frankincense and myrrh?
Preserves.
Because the ancient world stunk. It stunk, just like New Orleans probably is doing at the present moment. All the guys who are down there saying, I'm not saying the Americans did a good job there. I'm not excusing anybody or complimenting anyone, but the ones who went into the Superdome, that was the first thing they said, wasn't it? That it smelled so bad that you could hardly go in there. The ancient world didn't have a proper sewage system. The ancient world didn't have this kind of thing. So where you got conglomerations of people, big clusters of people, you got smells. And where you got smells, you wanted to get something to overcome the smells. And the best place to get something to overcome the smells was, as it turned out, southern Arabia. Weird as it may seem, they had a special climate there. Something like California, we have special things here in California that they don't have anywhere else. What causes that? What tree do we have here that they don't have anywhere else in the world? Redwood, not palm trees everywhere. Redwood trees. Redwood trees. And I think some of those giant sequoias that are related to the redwood trees. Why do we have that? And they don't have it in like Cuba or Europe or Africa or Brazil or some other place. Because we're on 9,000 miles of ocean to the west of us that creates a lot of mist that comes in from the west. And these trees like redwood take the water from the mist in the sky, not from the roots in the ground. They have special leaves and stuff that they take it from, that fog, that early morning fog we get here in California. Well, as you go up the coast further in Oregon, it gets even more so. And they had developed a system where they could take it in and that's why they were so big. They had to reach up into the mist to get the water to sustain their growth. Now, I'm not a great biologist, and you guys who do botany and stuff can maybe gainsay me, but that's the reason we have this unique flora. My kid said, you know what I love about California? The name of it, California. Where did you get that crazy name? So it's the best state, he said to me, one of my children just yesterday, he said, you know why it's the best name? Because it's got the best name. And, well, sure, a lot of states have Indian names, but where did California come from as a name?
Spain.
Huh?
Spain.
Yeah, but what does it mean? You see, what does it mean? Why is it so? Well, Kali, it's actually in Greek. Kali in Greek is good, kala, and fornia means living things. Good flora and fauna, basically, good vegetation, life, and so on. It impressed the Spanish explorers. It didn't come from Spain. And one of the explorers who was traveling past the coastline saw it and said, "Ah, California, beautiful." Vegetation, life area place. And so we got this beautiful name for this region, California. And it's because of that. Okay, Southern Arabia had a similar thing. You know, the monsoon. Now I can get on with where I'm at here. I'll get rid of Iraq. Get to our main subject here, which I think Mr. Harris was talking to you about last time. The Arabian Peninsula. There she blows. Red Sea. I'm not a great map drawer, but you recognize it to some extent. Up here is, I don't know what you call it, the Persian or Arabian Gulf, depending on which nationalist you are and so on. But here, you see the monsoon comes up the coast of east coast of Africa here, goes over to here and goes all the way to India here, and then falls down on India and rains. How many have been to India? I've been there when I was, probably before you guys were born. I was in India in 1962. Anyone born before 1962? I was a hippie, hitchhiked to India, through all the Afghanistan, all these other places. I was on the road, as it were. This is how people on the road end up. You're looking at people like me. That's how we end up like this. After we travel and get around a lot. But, you know, I was like you guys. I was a hippie or something like that, you know, hipster or whatever. I was on the road. Traveled by myself, went to all these places. Went to Lebanon and Turkey and Afghanistan. I was in Afghanistan. I was in Pakistan. I was all these places. But in India, if you have the monsoon, man, you'll never forget it. It begins around June and it ends around September or so. It comes in like, you know, it's just suddenly you're walking along and it's like rain falls on you, like, you know, you've seen it, huh? Like heavy rain, and then suddenly it stops. And you're all wet and it's all humid and you're walking along, and an hour later, you know, this rain, it's so humid and moist that the rain comes in, and it's really, it's not frightening, it's kind of beautiful, because the rain cools it off for a bit, you know. It's better to have the rain than not the rain. But, you know, it's really something, an unforgettable thing. But that comes all the way from East Africa. And what happened was that here in the southern part of Arabia, this is sort of mountainous here, the monsoon would hit these mountains here, the monsoon laden with moisture breezes. Where they came from, I'm not a great weather specialist to know. And they would dump the rain here before they got to India. So this southern part of Arabia had a different climate than the rest of Arabia. And that's why the Romans referred to this Arabia, it's all in Nicholson, that's why I wanted you to have Nicholson, as Arabia Felix. It's Latin.